Ahoy there, my name is Lee Marshall and I am currently open to career opportunities. In this video I will talk about both who I am and what I can do, but also what I'm looking for in a company, as I see this as very much a two-way thing. Companies are trying to find the right prospective employee, but I'm also looking for the company that will fit me and we will go well together. Who am I? I'm Lee and I've been a software tester for over 11 years now. It's primarily been in the finance sector. I have worked in savings and mortgages. I've also been involved with short-term loans, and recently I have moved out of that sector to work with startup company where it's to do with a task management system. In that time I have worked with teams of different sizes, generally 3 to 5 developers I've worked with, and depending on the size of the project I might be the sole tester. I've worked with other testers, I've had test leads where I was more junior to start with, and when I work with the developers and the wider teams, with my business analysts, with my product owners, with my scrum masters or delivery leads, I'm very big on collaborative work. I will work closely with them to help refine the stories by doing three amigos, by doing things both synchronously and asynchronously. So have it where as a team I would be involved with going through the story, help them look at the acceptance criteria by going not only do what do we want it to do, but what don't we want it to do, so we explicitly prove we don't want them to do things. I've also done it where I've done it asynchronously, where we'll look at things in advance independently, we'll raise questions, so then we can get together, look at the answers, or if something we know won't be answered immediately, it gives time for the appropriate people to find what to do. As part of my experience, I'm big on presenting and communication. So within workplaces, I have helped found community to practice where I've been a facilitator. I've also helped communities of practice be started that other people wanted to run. One example is I helped organise a testing community of practice where you get all the testers in the organisation together every couple of weeks to every month. We would use it as a mixture of showing off new technologies, new tools, but also as a way to share new approaches, talk about conferences that anyone has been to, and learn from each other rather than independent project teams who don't get enough collaboration. There might be a problem they're stuck on that someone else has seen but not able to find out about. I've also helped, for example, an agile community practice and a business analyst community practice get started, where they weren't particularly my domain, but I helped them get started as I know how to do a community practice, how to get people talking and working together. Outside of that, I've also done public speaking. I've spoken at a local meetup several times. I even used to be the organizer, again using my community of practice experience to get people together. I would introduce the speaker, I would get everyone ready, I would also close the event and get people prepared for the next one. And I've also spoken at conferences for both short amounts, and also I spoke at Test Bash X Bucks last year, where I talked about how I started being an agile coach. In regards to my talk of being an agile coach in a journey I've just got started on, I see this as how I've moved from just helping out a team by doing the testing to helping influence how they think about their testing. I like to see myself as someone who wants to improve the team. Often testers are known as QAs. For a long time I liked the term question asker, as always by asking questions it helps uncover missed problems, gaps in requirements. Sometimes it's known as quality assurance, but I prefer the term quality advocate. Quality is going to be everyone's responsibility, There's so much going on. People might not consider things, they might overlook areas, they might try to shortcut, but someone who's always championing for quality is a great way to improve it and consider things. And that's what I like to see myself as bringing to an organization. With this, I'd like to look for a company who has different levels of testers. I would absolutely love to be involved with some junior testers to help them learn about testing, to consider things they hadn't looked at, to do more than just look at the requirements and yes, tick them off, but also what can we do to disprove things. An example is I worked on a project where we were needing to delete very specific data. And a reference point I would bring up is if we wiped the database according to this AC, we would have done what you need. We not only need to prove that we can delete data, but we need to prove that we don't delete the data we're meant to be keeping. And it's things like that I like to bring out in people. I mentioned my experiences in testing. It's primarily in exploratory testing most recently. So I like creating test charters to give an idea of what I'm going to do, areas I'm looking for. And if it's a big piece of work, I will have multiple charters. So that way I can have each testing session themed on a different area. I might be looking at login. I might be looking at text validation. I might be trying to trigger errors in the database, in the logs, or in the dev tools. As well as that, I then record my sessions and I make them available on Jira. So all the information's in the ticket. People haven't got to go looking around for where all these things are. If it's a related item, I might publish something on Confluence. So if I've gone, this is how to use this area, as I found testers are very good at getting a bigger picture of how a product works, and it can be useful for passing information over to others. So you heard lots of what I can offer a company, but you might be curious, what am I looking for in a workplace? So I've mentioned I'd like to work with junior testers and so forth. As part of that, I'm looking for a company who knows what their career progression is. So do you go from junior to tester to senior? Do you have lead roles towards management, but do you also have non-leadership roles? For example, I'd like to be moving towards a more formal coach role who don't necessarily lead the people, but they lead how quality is perceived. So less of a managerial role, more of like an internal consultant. So again, who is trying to get people to consider how they test, why they test, what they should or shouldn't be doing. I'm looking for a company who doesn't believe that automation is the answer to everything. So automation is not in my skill set and isn't a direction I'm personally interested in going towards. I find it doesn't engage me, and I'd rather work towards an area that I'm engaged and passionate about, and that way I get to give my best work. I'm looking for a company with a good benefits package. So ideally, salary-wise, I'm looking at £65,000 or higher. And then if they've got things like enhanced pension package, so more than the government minimum, and more than just eligible earnings, but total earnings, for example. If they have anything to do with, say, a training package, so whether it's a budget that gets to spend individually on books or courses, if the company subscribes to things like Ministry of Testing Pro account, so I can watch conferences and previous talks to help expand my knowledge and share it with others, which is a great thing for getting people together with a community of practice, for example. I'm looking for a company who is after a remote role, not something where I have to be in the office multiple times a week. It's not feasible for me, as I need something that works with my home life, as I'm the primary person for taking my son to and from school, and as such, trying to balance that with in-office hours just isn't possible for me. If it's something that's, say, once a month or once a quarter, I can potentially look at how he could be taken or dropped off. But a regular thing, unfortunately, is a hard no from me. Related to the remote work is the flexibility for when I start and finish work. So I'd need something where I wouldn't be expected to log on before I take or whilst I'm taking my son to school, or finish whilst I'm needing to make dinner, for example. So I can do like 8:15 to 5 o'clock most days. On a Tuesday, I have to take a break from 3 to 3:30 as my son finishes school earlier that day. But depending on the hours the company does, that is what I can work with. I'm also looking for a company which encourages people to work together. So if there's pairing or ideally mobbing / ensemble programming sessions, that would be absolutely fantastic, as I believe people work best when they're able to get together, even when it's remotely. It doesn't necessarily have to be a company which does this 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. But I find that where everyone scatters to the winds, does their own things in isolation, and just goes in stand up, this is what I've done, you can read about it later, it doesn't create a strong team dynamic. And I'd want it where I could be like, hey, there's this piece of work coming up, can we all talk about it? Or as a developer is writing some code, you'd be like, cool, let's get together, let's talk about what problems I foresee, can we make some tests around it? If they can build automation as they're going, it can be like, this is the path I'm going to take. If you can automate that, I can do my manual testing, my exploratory testing on the areas which aren't worth automating or require a human eye. So if we're worried about how something is done as styling wise, you need human eyes on that, and that's what I can bring. So this is my video where hopefully you've got an idea of what I can bring and also what I'm looking for. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm available on Twitter as @thepiratetester, or you can email me at thepiratetester@gmail.com. Thanks very much, and I look forward to hearing from you.